Hello, everyone. I'm Moy Dog,
And I'm Karmika, and welcome to Command Comms.
the podcast where we talk about everything and anything related to tactical shooters.
Awesome. So, welcome back, everyone. We're here with another episode of your favorite tactical shooter podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about some incredibly important news. V2 public testing for Squad has actually released. So, this means that anyone that owns a copy of Squad right now can go on, head over to public testing, and download the newest branch. So, a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be going over. We're going to be reading through all of the patch notes, giving our first impressions, and talking about what we think of this release. So, Moy, getting us kicked off. Out of everything here, I know there's new vehicles, there's a new map, a couple of mechanic changes as far as the spawns. What excites you the most out of what we've heard so far?
So we'll get into like the juicier, like, hey, we got a brand new warrior. There's a scimitar. There's all these little cool vehicles, and surges have been overhauled. But what I think is actually the coolest part about this is the layer overhaul, and it is essentially it. I guess if you're just an average player, just jumping in Squad, especially if you're a new player, you might not realize just how important this is to the gameplay loop and replayability of Squad. But this gameplay layer change has created a system where you can actually plug in and drop in factions and sub factions on each map. And so let's take an example of Al-Basra Invasion, very common layer, Al-Basra Invasion V2. So you have your British up in the north, they push through the airfield all the way down, eventually to the southern town and the southern island with the insurgents defending. Right, everyone knows this one. Typically, what you would have is you have a few warriors, a tank, your light vehicles against basically an equally armored insurgent force. What this layer system is allowing the game to do is to basically pick and drop in separate pre-made factions. So you could have an armored regiment for the British, or you could have an air cav heavy regiment. Maybe you have infantry and logistics. And so you can basically vote at the beginning of the map what type of faction and sub faction you want to play for this layer of Al-Basra Invasion. So you could essentially be a U.S. armored cav for this layer for invasion, and then maybe next round, let's do British air cav, that kind of stuff. I think that is amazing. I don't know what full implementation we're going to be seeing V2, but they've at least laid the groundwork for this, and that is something that is just super cool. I'm excited about it. It's going to make these maps that we all like, I think, a lot more replayable and a lot more interesting.
I definitely agree. I think having the ability to easily swap out, layers with different kinds of factions and sub-factions, divisions or, detachments within those factions, and they're all stylized and they're very thematic. I think that's definitely a very interesting thing to see. And I am excited to see, if you're going to be able to vote on what you want to play next and how well that system is baked into Vanilla Squad. One thing I would like to see, though, is in addition to having the ability to choose, what kind of maps and what kind of detachments you're playing, and this comes up from some things I've been doing recently, I would like to see a mix up in the game modes of Squad and actually pushing that kind of thing, because it's interesting to see gameplay change because of the factions that you play, but seeing how Squad is changed based on the game mode and introducing either new game modes or revamping and fixing old ones, I think that's also, a very important core part of getting that replayability and adding something new and fun that doesn't necessarily require too much work. So it's interesting to hear about the layer system. I am looking forward to its implementation. But yeah, I guess we'll start going through here top to bottom for these patch notes. We'll try to leave a link to the patch notes in the description down below. But yeah, let's get right into it. So first off, it looks like they're fixing a lot of bugs, right? I'm not seeing anything too crazy here, just some normal standard bug fixes. And then we, like you said, Moy, right here is the Layer Overhaul Phase 1. So very interesting to see what that's possibly going to lead to. A lot of cool kind of implementations I could see them using in the future. And then, Moy, have you seen the new streamer support options and the loading screens? What are your thoughts there for those system changes?
Yeah, so first of all, the loading screens are really cool. And it seems kind of like almost a lame to be excited about a loading screen, but they're actually really well done. They look nice. and it actually kind of gets me hyped a little bit. You're like, okay, cool. I'm actually going into a map. It's not just a standard running squad guy or keyboard or whatever. So that is a really nice touch. I think it's something that makes it feel more like a feature complete game. The streamer options, I'm going to be honest. I just played maybe about an hour or 2 hours of the playtest. And this was just officially released just a few hours ago. And so they had one or two playtest servers up. I spent a couple hours messing around in the new map as well. The streamer options, I think, are going to be very helpful once there's a couple bugs here, but it makes sense. I mean, this is a playtest; they're going to fix it. My main concern though is this is going to help for I guess the super big guys, because if you turn on the hide player names, it just makes everyone player 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down to 100. And as I found out walking around the map, it's very hard to talk to people if they're player two and they don't know who that is. They're
Right.
like, oh, I'm Mitch. You're calling me player two. So
Yeah.
my one recommendation actually is I do like this. I think it's something, especially if it wants to survive in the Twitch verse. Stream sniping sucks. DDoS attacks suck. All of those things are great. I would actually recommend to do it. I don't know if it's possible, but like Rifleman 1 or SL 1,
Oh, so your
Hat
slots are
2.
labeled.
Exactly, because that way
Ah,
you don't actually have to say player. You say, "Hey, Rifleman over here," or whatever, and people know what class they're playing. So I
right.
actually think that would be a much better way to do it. I don't know how labor intensive that is, but I do think this is moving in the right direction. It just needs a little bit more fine tuning.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I had kind of the same thoughts as well. I think the new map loading screens, as pretty as they are, and that's important, right? Because Squad is full release, right? It should have that polish as opposed to the original, just keyboard loading screen that no one ever read. I do want to see the loading screens also used as an opportunity to teach players. Now, that old keybind thing was absolutely is information overload. But even if like the new loading screens, I haven't seen them yet. So maybe if they showed like a tip or two, or gave some advice every time you load it in, I think that just because of how massive of a game Squad is, wherever you can try to teach players, I think the opportunity should be taken. So I don't know. We'll see what actually comes out when it's full release and out of testing. But seeing new map loading screens, it is nice polish. As far as the streamer support options, I was thinking about this, and while I do think it's good for like the random streamers that hop in, what I'm thinking is that like this won't necessarily help stream sniping for players who are, dedicated squad players or have a community or server that they frequent.
Yeah.
Mainly because
Yep.
that gets leaked and then boom, that's it. That's all you need. So that is going to be like I don't think you can ever truly get rid of stream sniping in squad. It's going to make it easier for the people who are comfortable jumping server to servers. But like when I recommend new players to playing squad, I don't recommend them to be jumping around, right? You want them to stay in a server, get to know those people, be a regular, and make friends, right? But it's harder to do that when you're jumping around on servers. So an interesting fix. It's good to see that they are looking at solutions, right? Rather than just completely saying, hey, just deal with it. So I do like to see that they are trying things. I just don't know if there's ever really going to be a way to counteract stream sniping. Um,
Yeah, I don't think you really can in a game like Squad. You
mhm.
have 99 other people that are all, it's not like a BR where you're going to drop in and if you get killed, you're out. These are people who are for at least 40 minutes to an hour, they're going to be playing with you. It's like, hey, especially, when Shroud or Dr. Disrespect were playing, everybody knew right away. And that's something that's just going to happen with larger streamers, larger communities like that. And I really think it's going to work for those the big guys, the big fish who try squat out, because that's going to be at least give them a little buffer to jump in and try to play without too many people, especially if they already use like an alias, whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, one thing that I did also like, and this isn't just a streamer tool. This might be helpful for uh, those who are recording or trying to get cinematic shots or anything. You can actually hide the server messages now.
Ah,
So those
very nice.
broadcasts those broadcasts are now hidden. The one of the devs was saying we don't recommend everybody turning it off because I know on our server we use warnings on broadcast. So like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, we will eventually do like an actual direct warning to somebody if they're not getting the picture, but we use a lot of broadcast messages, throughout a game or whatever. So although in a normal game of squad, I wouldn't recommend turning it off. But if you are really trying to get something cinematic or trying to get something going, you no longer have to worry about editing around those broadcasts. So I do think that's a really cool option.
Yeah, I do know that like for all my guys, like because I have people who are constantly taking screenshots or recording or other content creators, like being able to get good footage is very important for the content creation for a game. So if you look at, for example, like Escape from Tarkov, the the ability to go in there and get good footage, it's really hard. So most of the footage you see of Tarkov is generally the same stuff. Now some people do get tricky and they try to get cinematic shots or they try to, get in and get nice screenshots, but that game isn't really good for content creation. And I think that once these companies realize like how important these content creators are to like promote their game, it's literally free marketing. And the easier you make it for people to make awesome things to watch, I think the more popular your game gets and the further it can gain traction. And I don't think that's like
Yeah.
a big part of it, but I think it's pretty important, important enough that games should be paying attention. But yeah, some really interesting things so far. The system changes have really like given the game a lot more polish, right? Because this is the kind of stuff that you expect in a V1 game. And now that we're getting in V2, it's like, okay, good. It's a long time coming. So that's good to see. So I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, now we're going to jump into gameplay features. So I read this a little bit ago and I was like, I'm going to be honest, Moy, I was not impressed. They make this hab spawn activation delay sound like, so what happens is essentially when you drop the hab, the default time that it takes for that hab to become active is 10 seconds, right? Which I don't think is enough time to really be consequential. And reading their intent for this change, how it's supposed to like make teams think more about their hab placement, I don't know if a spawn delay is really the way to go about doing that. And we can get into that a little bit more. But what are your thoughts on this specific gameplay change?
So I think it's a good thing. I do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Could you, in the past, could you only stop a hab spawn if you were digging it down, or has there always been a proxy?
There's proxy, and you can dig down the hab, and you can dig down the fob. So
No,
there's
but
a
like in the like years ago, could you
oh
rush
years
into
ago. Well,
it
it depends,
if
I
you
guess,
were
on when you're picking, right? On when these changes were implemented, because I don't think they're all implemented at the same time.
because I had somebody in chat today and hey, don't trust strangers on the internet, right? Supposedly in the past you could rush a hab, and even if you were next to it you could still spawn in.
Oh yeah, before they
And it's
added the proxy.
Yeah, exactly. So you could be pretty much on the hab and still spawn in,
You
right?
could cheese
uh,
halves by just like dropping the radio, dropping the hab, and no matter like didn't matter who was around you, people would spawn in.
exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of so we've introduced the proxy mechanic, and now we're into the hab spawn activation delay mechanic. I do like this generally. I don't think it's a negative thing, because I don't think I think they're reading a little bit too much into, oh, you're now going to think about where you place your hab. I mean, okay, but the activation delay, it's 10 seconds. I do think it's going to stop. You have every once in a while you do a really crazy flank, you try to get a hab down, and it's going to be just a few seconds before people start pushing you. And those crazy last ditch habs do work in very niche situations, but I don't think it's as prevalent as maybe these gameplay feature notes make it seem. So I don't necessarily think this is going to change a lot, but I do think it's the key part of the activation delay is the overrun mechanic activation delay as well. So not after you just built the hab, but when it actually becomes no longer overrun, you've cleared it of enemies, you also have to wait 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So that type of thing, I think it's going to help both attackers and defenders a little bit play smarter. And it does really suck. I know you've been in a position where you push a hab and that one guy steps 21 meters out or 31 meters out, and all of a sudden the whole team spawns in. And you're like, dude, like really? Like we're right here. And you just use the hab, and now you're kind of screwed. You got to attack it again. So that kind of stuff I think is really cool, at least preventing a little buffer. I don't know if it's going to have as big of an effect as we all think without the new proxy changes that I believe got delayed until January.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. This is a good change, but they made it out to, I think, be a bigger deal than it actually is. Like, oh, with this 10-second delay, you are now going to have to think about where you place your fob and your hab, and it's going to matter. And it's like, this is going to affect the fringe cases, or like when you are trying to literally cheese a hab, you know? It's
Yeah.
not going to affect the majority of the public players' spawn or hab fob placement, I don't think. I could be completely wrong, but like in all my years of playing this game, I don't see a 10-second spawn delay actually pushing that too much. Um,
No, I agree with that completely.
yeah, so it's a good change, but there's like two paragraphs on this thing, and it's like I don't know. But yeah, let's move on here. We've got helicopter flight improvements. I'm not a pilot. Are you a pilot, Moy?
I'm not, but I did play it, so I can at least kind of have my initial, kind of greenhorn pilot talk on it. So if you are a pilot, you're accustomed to this. Even if you're not a pilot, you kind of that the flight model right now, it's not battlefieldy completely, but it does feel a little bit like that, right? Is that fair to say? As even like a
I
non-pilot,
have
or
not
completely
flied
not?
too much in Battlefield. So I can't
Oh
really.
my
I'm
god,
not.
just
Yeah, I'm not
boots
a
on the
pilot.
ground. Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm not a pilot guy.
All right. So it's relatively, I'm not saying it's Battlefield, but it is not as realistic as maybe a lot of people hoped it was going to be in its initial implementation last year. I can tell you right now that the helicopter feels heavy, and it feels like you're moving a large helicopter. I was flying the Puma, which is the new British helicopter, and it kind of feels like you're flying a hip a little bit, but even flying the hip, everything just feels heavy, and it doesn't turn quite I don't want to say well, because it makes it seem like it's a worse model, but
Hmm.
I do think you really have to play around with your sensitivity. I think you have to learn how to, like, if you guys have mastered the J turns out there, I know there's some epic pilots. They'll just J turn on a dime, drop down, drop the hab, get out of there. You're probably going to have to, I don't want to say completely redo your settings, but definitely play around with your sensitivity, because it not just the model itself, but how you approach things, the angles at where you need to kind of rotate the vehicle. It's a lot different. I don't know if this heavy floatiness is more realistic, because I've never played a realistic simulator helicopter thing. But I can tell you though, it feels more of, I guess, what I thought flying a helicopter would be in my very basic understanding of a helicopter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just I'm so glad whenever they can really get like the helicopter people happy, because having good pilots is important. And seeing, like, you can really see when a pilot knows what they're doing and what they're not, and they can pull off some crazy immersive maneuvers, and it's like really really cool when that happens. So as long as they keep those guys happy, I'm all good. I just personally, I don't have any real interest in this, I don't think. The only thing in here that really interests me is like the reduced residual thrust when the engine is disabled, forcing survivable crash landings. Now, this
Yep.
is really interesting because that's immersive as fuck. Like getting your tail rotor shot out or getting your engine shot out and actually surviving the crash, I think is going to be really, really cool. But that's pretty
Wait, so
much.
speaking of crash,
Mhm.
I want to say, I'm not seeing it right here. Didn't, in a dev chat or something earlier this year, they mentioned something about giving the pilots more control on if a rotor does get shot out or something like that? I'm not seeing
I
anything here.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I could have sworn, and
It
I
is
could
quite
just be
possible.
creating thing, because I thought part of this helicopter flight improvement was to give pilots more control of the helicopter, because when you lose a tail rotor, you don't instantly start spinning like a top, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it gets there, but you can kind of fight it.
Yeah, you can.
Um,
Yeah, there's techniques to increase your odds of survival. Yes.
yeah, yeah, and right now your odd is, hey, I'm just going to spin until I hit the ground.
Yep.
And so I can also tell you that in the playtest, I shot, once again, the new RPG 28 tandem uh, heavy anti tank weapon at a Blackhawk. The thing still just caught fire and flew away and landed, repaired, did the whole thing. So whatever they have improved, its flight model, and it's definitely not making them more susceptible to ground fire, any other things like that. They're
Hmm.
still flying tanks, it seems.
Yeah, it's. Oh, do you remember the heli mod flight model?
I'm not gonna lie, I hated that mod.
Yeah.
I like I hated that mod. I'm sorry if there's any heli flight model
See,
people out there. I did not like
this
it.
is why I can't give my takes on piloting, is because I'm not a pilot. I like things simple. I want to be able to fly helicopters without having to learn a whole bunch of stuff, but I'm not against them making it difficult or increasing the skill ceiling or
Oh yeah,
giving you like that's all great and good. But that's why I'm very hesitant to give my takes on these kind of things, just because I've just never been a real big fly guy, you know what I'm talking about?
yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah. But the next feature here, which is an interesting one, it's a good one, is the refund mechanic, both for placements and infantry kits. So I was going through this, and it looks like when you misplace something and you dig it back up, you get some of the cost back, which I think is a good cushion. It kind of keeps things consistent within the game. It's not like, I dropped the hab, this dude accidentally right clicks it and it's gone, and now we have nothing. Because I
Dude, that
remember,
happened.
oh
Oh
god,
man.
when they did a free weekend or whatever, and you drop a hab, you're literally screaming before you place the hab, left click, left, because you know someone's gonna accidentally click that right click, that hab goes bye bye, and now you've got no supplies on that fob. So I think this is a great way. Like it's really not too consequential, but it should smoothing things out. You know, things shouldn't be so as like, oh, you messed up this one thing. Well, guess what? Your whole team's messed up now.
Yeah, it also really helps with certain times that you do want to drop in placements. You realize after maybe a few minutes of actual taking contact or seeing how the game's playing that, hey, maybe you should have actually just shifted this, 10 meters this way, especially when it comes to, HMGs, or maybe a tow is actually a little bit better on this ridge than that ridge, that kind of stuff. So being able to have 80% build is a pretty big thing when some of these can cost 500-600 build. And although you won't be able to get it immediately unless you have some left over, I think it sucks right now. You feel like you're stuck with bad emplacements unless you can actually get a completely new logi run to reset. And I do just hope that we're able to take advantage of this on some of these things. I seeing the deployable refund mechanic, if I'm being honest, I wish I also saw some changes of the cost of some of these deployables. Like some things like HESCO blocks, or HESCO barriers, HESCO walls, different bunkers, things like that. I do think are pretty insane in the cost compared to what they actually offer when you actually build them. So I I don't know. This is good. I absolutely love it, especially the infantry kit cost is super cool. It always felt kind of lame when you had to basically take an entire set of ammo just because you want to change out a grenade for not a grenade and you're changing kits. So that is really nice. I kind of wish we had a little bit more in the deployables, if we are doing a deployable change.
Yeah, I do think that the emplacements need some love. And you see this a lot because maybe we'll talk about it a little bit later. But like I started rolling out a brand new mod with a new game mode, and like the difference
Wait,
between
are you modding?
I
Wait,
know, right? Who would have
like
thought?
modding in
Just out of
Squad?
the blue. I never talked about this ever before.
I
It's
know. Wow,
crazy.
that's really cool.
Yeah. But it's really interesting to see because we've changed kind of how the game mode works and how FOB should be treated. And you can very easily see that the general squad mentality, like 99% of the players in squad, their idea when it comes to dropping a FOB is you drop the FOB, you drop the radio, you drop the HAB, and that's it. Maybe you get 2 mortars, maybe you get a tow, but that's generally all that gets dropped with the FOB. And
Yep.
like it's very clear in this new game mode that we have, because like FOBs, we made FOBs so very important to be built up and to be defended, that it's crazy how little people use these emplacements, these deployables. And like even the HMGs, I know the HMGs are kind of useful right now. It's just, it doesn't feel like it's worth it in vanilla squad to use those kind of deployables or emplacements. It feels like you could be doing something better. And that's a very interesting thing to really go in when you look at that specific type of squad gameplay of like what's happening with FOB gameplay specifically and the meta there. And then when you look at what it could be or what it should be, I kind of feel like what happened was Squad had this meta develop where habs and fobs were used for this one specific purpose, and OWI just said, yeah, okay, we're just gonna lean into that. And so that's where you get this hab, change. It's not like they're trying to change the mechanics of how the hab works to make it so you can't do this. They're just saying, hey, we're gonna add a 10-second spawn and hard code it so that you can't pull off this cheese. It's not like they're trying to change the thinking behind it. They're trying to just stop you by adding mechanical blocks, which is, I don't know about that, but it's very interesting, and honestly, it makes me a little sad because it makes me feel like, well, what if it could be done differently? What if something new could happen? And that's literally where I got a lot of the inspiration to start my own mod project and to see if I could fix some of these problems. And this is a long topic, but let's roll into the next new things here, which is the goodies that almost 99% of the squad player base really enjoys, which is the new weapons and the new vehicles. So, Moy, why don't you take us through these?
So we're going to start off with the new infantry weapons, and the biggest, I guess, highlight is the insurgent faction overhaul. I want to be very clear, we're talking about insurgents and not the game mode insurgency. A lot of people have confused the two. Insurgency is not part of this update, just insurgents themselves. So the first one is the Mosin Nagant. So the actual bolt action Russian rifle, it has 3 different variants. One is the shorter carbine with iron sights. Then you have the full length rifle with iron sights, and then the magnified scope option. So I have seen, and it says you can actually reload this via single shells or a stripper clip, which it does look. I was actually surprised to see this. So with the Mosin Nagant, when you fire it, it's an automatic. Unlike, how postscriptum, if you fire it, you have to double click. Yeah. It's automatic. It's not double click or whatever.
That honestly, so real fast, that seems really weird considering like I would have thought that it would be an easy implementation to squad because they're both but yeah, keep going.
Well, no, the Timberwolf. Hey, I see. I can hear that smile, sir. I can hear it. I can hear it. The Timberwolf has it, so
well,
it's not
why
like
doesn't
they can't do it.
then?
I don't know.
I don't know what is going on.
I don't know. I would like to see it. If I could have designed it, I would prefer, especially if I believe this is a one shot to the torso.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is a one shot with it, better be.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a one shot with the torso, I would love to have to click and cycle it myself, so that way I can see.
Yeah.
Especially with these types of things, you need to be able to see. I don't know why it isn't. The Timberwolf is, and Postscriptum is, but when you start comparing Squad to Postscriptum, people get cranky and crabby and stuff like different game, different death. Yeah, whatever. But I would like to see it. It is really cool, however, if you fire, let's say, 2 rounds off of your first stripper clip that you loaded, you can then, if you press reload, it actually just reloads 2 additional rounds in. So that stuff is really cool. It does make you feel like you're actually using the rifle. So whatever you used, it reloads. If you use the whole thing, you add in a stripper clip and you're good to go. It's really well done. I do think it sounds good. I wish it was a little punchier because it is a bolt action rifle, but it's overall, I think this is going to be super cool. I was able to see, it looks like the rifleman class for insurgents, I think they're actually called fighters. It has the carbine, I believe, with iron sights. And then I was looking at the magnified scope option, which I think they're calling a sniper. They had 2 different, I think they're playing around with what they're actually calling it. But the magnified scope looks great. It looks like what you would think a Mosin looked like with the correct scope, range, all that good stuff. I think it's going to be really slick. It's a really cool addition. I do wish we could just cycle our own bolt. So that's my only but overall, I'm actually super pumped about it. It looks awesome.
That's good. I mean, anytime we get new kind of assets, like whether it's a vehicle, a weapon, or even a faction, like I think it is good. It's content. Adding content to the game is never bad because I think it's always cool and it's going to bring people back. My only thing is like going back once again to like the changes that I would like to see in a patch. This is like temporary candy, right? Like the assets and things that get added, none of it I think addresses the larger replayability of squad, right? Because these are things that you see and then they're cool for a little while, but it's not game changing. None of these systems change the way that that Squad is really at its core played in AES or, Invasion or whatnot. So I would like to see something shake up the meta. I really would. This meta has been the same for how long, Moy? How long would you say we've been playing Squad for roughly the same way?
Well, I actually started playing in January 2019, and it's the same meta.
Right, like nothing is no cool strategy, like new strategy to try. It's just, it feels like to me it's gotten to a point where they're just adding these nice shiny things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I would like to see more, and I don't know if we're going to get it now that Squad is fully released. We're not going to see anything that truly shakes up how the game is played or makes it better at its core. We're going to see some things that like aren't cool and they're nice, but I have yet to see anything within the last few patches that I've gone, wow, this is a new game or a better game. And that kind of, I don't know if it worries me so much as it just saddens me, just because I know that I can't expect a game development company to be pushing stuff out like this. And what they've done so far is definitely, like, it's definitely an achievement. And getting this game to where it is and all the work that's been done, it's just, I love this game. I truly do love this game. I want to see it evolve. I want to see it get better. I want to see things shake up. I want to keep playing this game. That is the core of where all of my like love and criticism and desire when I'm talking about like what I'd like to see comes from. It's not from a place where like I don't want to play this game. It's just I want to keep playing this game. And from what it looks like and from what I've experienced so far, it more and more every day looks like that answer is going to be modding. And so I'm hoping that at least in the next patch, we can see something big with the modding scene. If nothing new on OWI's side to change up the meta or really, shake things up or improve things, I would love to see full support for the modding scene. And yeah, I mean, out of all these guns right here that we see, I mean, a new hat is cool. I think the coolest new thing here is going to be the N-Law with its limited tracking. I think we're getting into interesting semi-dangerous territory with fire and forget launchers that are launched by infantry that don't require anything else. But it's a cool change. It's technically a new system, and that's like everything else here is like a Mosin Nagant's cool, but it doesn't really change up gameplay. The RPD is just an HMG or an LMG, depending on how you want to classify it. And then the anti-tank is just a new anti-tank. It like none of this really is new. It's like reskin
okay,
stuff.
Hold on. All right.
Okay, I know I'm rambling.
All right, we're playing.
Yes,
no,
yes,
you're not
yes,
rambling.
yes.
We're playing. You're. I'm good cop. You're bad cop.
Okay,
All right.
all right,
You beat him up. You beat him up. I'm gonna bring him up now. Okay.
We're gonna bring him up.
So here's where let's take this on the way I see it. I 100% understand and agree with you on a lot of these points of ultimately these are just guns. These are just vehicles. These are just, what. Now, I want to challenge you to take it like this.
Mm-hmm.
You just say heavy anti-tank for the RPG 28 is just a hat kit. This one hat kit has now completely buffed Russia and is now going to change how I approach Russians if I am playing in vehicles. Because you just gave them a missile or not, sorry, the in-laws a missile. You gave them a rocket that can be ranged up to 500 meters. Ultimately, you're giving them double their hat range from before, and one that relatively flies straight and is much easier than the huge heavy football that is the RPG 7 tandem round.
Right.
Very, very hard to read scope that people like
watch videos for.
Hey, yeah, speaking of it, no, the reason that I feel like a lot of us vehicle players are able to do so many cool things is because they have such a garbage tandem round to work with. If someone's trying to get that thing is super finicky, it drops like hell. If you think you got the right range, I mean, even very experienced hat players have problems with it depending on certain factors. So you have now buffed hat for the Russians,
right? I guess this also touches on my core philosophy of how I would like to play the game and why this doesn't really excite me. I believe that armor should be the main primary counter to armor. Having infantry deal with armor is cool and all, and I think you do need to have hats and lats to a certain extent. But this is why, like, for example, in Armod, I completely removed the ATGM emplacement because I think the core of what's supposed to happen. I think what is good for gameplay and what is enjoyable is when certain people feel like they have appropriate answers, balanced or not balanced answers, but answers that don't result in an instant. How do I frame this? The amount of skill it takes to kill something should be equal or almost equal or around that kind of equal to how much skill it takes to operate that thing. Right? So if we add a RPG, and this is why I'm against adding javelins and why I don't want to add any kind of lock and fire or infantry weapons or weapon system period, is because I feel like you have someone in a vehicle who's crewing essentially a three-man vehicle. I would much rather that this three-man vehicle is annihilated by another three-man vehicle, tank v tank, than an infantryman who has a laser-guided hat that can hit up to 500 meters, and he can run around sitting in buildings or in small bushes. Like, that is what I think is not good for gameplay, right? Because that's why I hate toes so much. You have one dude, and sure, you can kind of make the argument, well, he has to supply the fob. Someone has to drop supplies, and that's somewhat a valid argument. But you have one dude who's sitting on a hill 1,500 meters out, waiting for a 3-man or 2-man crewed vehicle to roll in, and then all he does is left click. So that's where this doesn't excite me.
I don't think I've ever agreed harder to this. But first, I will actually ask this, because this will actually tell me if you are serious about your mod or you're just preaching. Is the spandrel included in your mod?
Nope.
Oh my God. All right, there we go. Nope, you sold. Okay.
Yeah,
yes, sold.
I think ATGMs are absolutely terrible for the game. I think because I think people love saying that ATGMs are the counter to tanks. And well, yes, you are correct. Anti-tank guided missile. The thing is, this anti-tank guided missile is the freaking counter to literally every other vehicle. It's not just anti-tank. It's anti-logi, anti-truck, anti-BTR, it's anti-helicopter. The thing is so overwhelmingly oppressive that almost any other style of gameplay is dictated by this one vehicle.
Exactly.
And it's
the biggest thing is I actually call it the spandrel is the antithesis of what squad wants to be. You have one person crewing a vehicle that should really have multiple people in it. You should have at least, if you do want to just balance it without removing it. I love the fact that your mod removed it, because it should be deleted. If I could go to Vancouver and they weren't in quarantine, I would go into the office and find the file where the spandrel is being held on the systems and delete it. So our next patch would never have the spandrel again. Like, this thing is, you have one person who can drive around and just delete vehicles before they even know where they're getting shot at. So that I 100% agree on that thing. I agree with your just sitting on a toe in the middle of nowhere, literally just waiting for a vehicle that has usually 3 people if they're doing it right. Long spawn times, very slow moving. It's very cheesy. It's very lame. I do think the RPG-28 is just dumb. You just fire it. It's 500 meters, whatever. I do think the Gustav is still much better than it. The in-law is not. I feel like people, they hear the tracking, they hear how do you call it? Predicted line of sight, whatever they call it. You move it horizontally for a second or two. It tracks the velocity that you're tracking, and then it will just fire, and the missile will have that same trajectory. So if the vehicle slows down, stops, moves trajectory a little bit, or is not being flat, then it will miss. It's not heat seeking, it's not tracking like that. If you want to get into the heat seeking, the stingers, the javelins, you have to start talking about countermeasures. You have to start talking about infrared. You have to start talking about other things that can quickly take care of those. So I do get 100% where you're going with this. I think these are giving them better tools that a modern faction should have, if that makes any sense.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. But I almost feel like things might be getting added without consideration for gameplay just because, hey, this is realistic, or hey, this is a cool thing to add, right? That's kind of what it feels like. It's like, hey, these people should have that, so that's what they have. I don't care what this actually does to gameplay, but now the faction looks like a realistic faction. And people love, I understand the people who want squad to be completely ultra realistic, armor pen values, the range on things, like, oh, the toe actually has a range of it, the mortars can actually hit up to 5,000 meters. Like, you have to realize that with realism, games become less fun. And the reason for that is because contemporary weapon systems have become so freaking lethal that you can say, you know, an ATGM is the counter to a tank. Well, you know, I don't know, maybe a freaking cruise missiles that the counter to a fob. Like, it's like you start having this huge escalation to the point where some of the things that get added, i.e. artillery, right? 155 artillery with the crazy, what is it, like 30 round barrage. These things become so far escalated that the grunt infantryman, the majority of the gameplay of which the player base is having, becomes, it gets cannibalized. And so this is when I really want to talk about, like, maybe we do this in a different podcast, but realism doesn't equal fun. There needs to be considerations and compromises made for the sake of gameplay. And we already have some, you know, the ability to revive. Like, that's one of them, right? In real life, you just die. if you get shot, you die, and that's not fun, but it's realistic. So there's some things that are related. Like, whenever I hear people cry, oh, you know, you shouldn't be able to pen the T-72 from this angle when you're using the Charlie because you're using this kind of armor. It's like, bro, it's like, if you really wanted to counter with realism, the escalations would get so insane that we eventually, like, a squad, you just fucking press one button and the nuke comes in, and boom, that's it. Or an MLR's strike comes in, it just annihilates half a quarter of the map, and it's just crazy. So I do, when I see these changes, when I see things just get added to be added, and I don't see any gameplay changes behind them, that's where I get that impression, is because I don't see considerations where, like, okay, we're adding this, but we're also gonna, you know, we're gonna tweak this, and we're gonna make the game look like that. We're gonna change the cap size here. We're gonna make it so that this does this. These things are added almost in a vacuum, and that's where I get the impression that they're added just to be added, and that's worrisome.
I do wish that we had more iterative patches and hot fixes.
I agree with that.
Specifically towards gameplay loop and gameplay, or game modes rather, because some of these things I feel like we've had to wait until huge content injection patches just to try things out, or things get pushed to the playtest server, the playtest branch. Nobody plays the playtest branch, or if they do, it's just for the first day it's released. Nothing gets tested. It's either scrapped, or then it's just implemented, and then however it happens. Usually, it doesn't go over very well.
Yes,
but things like this, you need to have these types of things, especially like I guess it's like I get I feel like you're not alone in you see all of this, because I have people that, you know, I play with all the time. They see all this stuff, and at the end of the day, they they load it up onto a server, they found one bug, and they just go OWI, and V2, we still get, and it's like we don't have any gameplay changes. You know, we have all this cool stuff, but ultimately we're still playing RAS, Gorodoc V1, and we're still having to deal with yada yada yada. So I get that. I'm hoping, I am getting this a little bit glass half full, because we were supposed to get a lot more with this patch. Let's be honest. Like V2, this is one, I think we're actually supposed to get this in October, if I'm correct, initially. And then
delayed.
We got a lot of stuff cut, and then we got some stuff still pushed. Because of this, the Marines aren't going to be here until next year. Sorry if I'm just breaking this to you right now, but Q1 we're getting a lot of stuff, and Q1 could mean January. Supposedly. Yeah. All right, I'm not all right, but okay. So yeah, what I'm trying to say, I'll let Karma be a little bit more the negative Nancy. I'll be more the positive potato.
I'll
stay thematic here. Positive potato. Well, no, okay. So here's my point. What I am hoping will change for gameplay reasons, and the way people approach games, are I understand that the actual mechanics of some of these stuff hasn't changed for a while. I get that. But what I feel like is we've built ourselves into a meta because we have very cookie cutter. This is RASV1. This is the layer that you're given. These are the vehicles you're given. And you are now, you just have to go at it. You
Right.
know,
So let me address that because I think you brought up a very interesting point, right? You brought up 2 points, and before we get too far, I want to address them, right? The first is the fact that you are completely right. We do not get any hot fixes, any minor gameplay adjustments, any balancing patches. We get nothing in between content patches. Nothing. We get one large content patch, then we wait months until the next one, and then they bake in the changes. So you have metas that stagnate for months at a time because for whatever reason, OWI will refuse to push content or balance updates. I don't know why. Like some games push them out weekly. I know Tarkov is pushing them out. Like sometimes I'll launch Tarkov one day, the next day I have a hotfix for something.
yeah.
So it's like the game is almost designed, and how they are developing it, it's going to stagnate. And what worries me is that nothing has been done to really fix that, right? We don't see, hey, we noticed these issues happening in matches this week, or we over this last month even. This is what we're gonna do to shake this up or to fix this problem. You get none of that. It's like, hey, okay, we're gonna give you these new guns. Okay, we'll be back in a couple months. All right, hey, cool. Hey, we made a couple new guns, and we flipped up. You get 10 seconds more on the hab now. It's like there's so many greater problems or other ways that this game can be improved that. And I don't know what's going on behind the curtain. Maybe they are. Maybe there's a huge content patch that they're working on that's like a very secret patch that's going to shake things up. And they just have, they're keeping it low for a massive release, and they're going to hype it up. And I could be completely wrong and look like an idiot in a week, and they drop it out of nowhere. But generally, history and the patterns that we've seen lead me to believe that this is now the standard. And that worries me. And that's why I truly believe that the main thing that OWI really needs to focus on is just get modding out, get it to a state where the community could have made all these changes in half the time. I started developing my mod in 2 weeks. We've developed a new game mode. We've completely fixed a lot of old metas that were completely stopped in a week and a half. I have never been more excited to play Squad because I spent a week and a half with a team fixing the problems that I saw were in Squad. And now Squad is to me, like, I see it as being some of the best games. The best era for me for Squad is coming up because I have the power to make the changes that the game needs. And that needs to get, spread out on a more wide scale, because right now modding is like being held back and restrained in almost every direction. And I just need to see them support it. I've been saying this for months now. Modding needs better implementation. Because the community could have done all this. Like, I'll be real with you. The community could have added new weapons, could have added new vehicles, could have added more layers. And getting to your second point, right, the layers, right? How we play the same layers and oh my god, and we have to wait for a layer system. That's not entirely true. The devs and us as modders, we have the ability to change layers. So for example, in our mod, we have very thematic maps. We change things up. It just takes time. It takes a little time, a little effort. You go through, you make, hey, this is the outfit we want to use. This is going to be an airborne map. This is going to be a mechanized division. This is going to be an armor platoon, and this is how the map is going to play. And then you make a new map and a new layer and yes, it's a lot of work, but it's doable. And if you let the community do it, they'll fix all the layers themselves. They'll add more layers, but it's just it's not a point where we can do it, and it's just disheartening. It's really disheartening.
No, okay. I think you're going to be excited about how let's say, I don't want to say phrase or say okay, I had a chance to speak with Virus, one of the devs at OWI during stream today as we were going over V2 stuff, and he was explaining this layer system. Yes, I understand a lot of things, and I've seen it done. I mean, we've gotten factions, we've gotten complete, galactic contention, we've gotten huge reworks, the Okis stuff. I mean, amazing things. Your hardcore modding is 100% the way to go. What I think people are not going to give credit to, because it seems as just a layer change, is that this layer change will allow people, if you just have, your Gorodok AAS V1, whatever it is, your standard points, your your meta, and if we're talking about how we're kind of sick of the meta for every map will now be different. And the way that I feel, yes, AAS will still play the same, RAS will still play the same. I really hope these get fixed, but I want to pretend that, let's say they don't. Okay, let's just say it's what we got. Separate ourselves from the game modes. The meta will change because when you load up Gorodok ASV1, you are no longer getting the set standard vehicles. You are looking at the map and you're saying, hey, you know what? I want to just go, light infantry, light vehicles. Let's just go, try to be super speedy. Let's have, air cav. We're not going to have like any armor. We just want to go hit and run. Let's just see if that works.
So
And then
sorry. So my question there, just a small technical question, is
yeah.
when this layer is implemented, are they randomizing the assets that you get, or every time you choose that layer, it is a set amount of assets in particular that you're receiving?
So you will get. Let's say what their intention is. When you load it up, one team will select a blue 4, one team will select a red 4. So no longer is a team like US is no longer tied to AASV1. So you will say, okay, I want to be US, British, Canada, Aussies, whenever we get it, whatever you want. And this will also work for mods. He specifically said they want to make it easier. So like the Rangers, the Ranger mod, or any of the Spec Ops, any of the other smaller factions that you guys have created in Squad Ops, you now create the overall big army, okay, US. So now you've created you've selected, you've voted as a team playing this map that you guys want US. You then select as a vote, you have a set number of pre-made sub factions that could either be anything from like armored cav to maybe light reconnaissance, air cav, just logistics and infantry. And those separate sub factions, I don't know how many there are, or if you can add any, whatever. Those will have pre-designated assets. So you could actually have asymmetric warfare where your team goes in with absolutely 0 tanks, and the other team can elect to go armored. And you now have to figure out how to play that. So I agree on a lot of what you're saying. I do think that this small, relatively small, because it's not as sexy as a Mosin Nagant. I think this is actually going to really cause games to change, and it feels almost like oh god, what is it? Almost like another type of game, like an Overwatch or League of Legends. Like, hey, if we are armored cav, how do we attack an insurgent cell, a lightly armored insurgent cell on this map compared to an armored insurgent cell, like that kind of stuff. Like
I totally understand what you're saying here. It just goes back again to like, what concerns me with this is, while this is a step in the right direction, is the amount of patches and how they do patches. I foresee the same thing happening where you have this system where, yeah, maybe the games that you play are a little bit different, but problems will arise and patches to fix them won't be released until content patches. That's kind of the main problem. Like this will definitely help replayability, and it's gonna seem fun, and you're gonna have like choice, some limited, more choice than before. But if that choice ends up going, oh my god, he's picking the airborne, they're picking the airborne again, and we're going against this, and it's still not balanced, and you just need to fix this one thing, it'll be balanced, and they still don't do these things, you still run into the same problem. It's just a different start. So it's I want to see gameplay. What would make me happy is watching them put gameplay patches into the game. The consistent patches where they take a look, hey, here's the meta, this is what we notice is overpowered, these are the points that are bad, we need to increase the size of this point, we need to reduce the meta tickets on this layer. But it doesn't look like from these patches, like it kind of looks like they care, but there's nothing in there that really shows that like, hey, we are really listening and looking at the meta, and we're paying attention to what needs to really be fixed. And maybe they will. Maybe they're not doing it because they know where they're working on this whole new system that's going to redo all the layers and all the factions. And in that case, good job. Good job, ODY. I can't wait to see this new layer function. And like, if after they're really paying attention because it's all on this new system and they don't have to redo anything next, then that would be great. That would bring back my faith in the fact that they're looking and paying attention to gameplay. But if they don't, then I feel like it's just going to stagnate again. You'll have
Mhm.
maybe a little bit longer until the problems show up. But if the content patches are the only patches where gameplay patches are introduced, and those come months at a time, it will stagnate. It's just because the patches don't come soon enough.
Yeah. No, I I think we all wish we had a little bit more, especially it feels I know we live in unprecedented times out here, you know? I mean, we're all quarantined. We all got and I especially know like Canada's closing up again, you know, if they're out in Vancouver. I get that. It definitely it feels there's a lot of quietness. I don't know, silence, I guess is probably a better grammatically way of putting that, but it seems like there was a lot of nothing and then the roadmap update was actually I looked at it was updated on basically good Black Friday, like right after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're Canadian, so it's not their same thing, but it was almost like there's no update about it. There was a roadmap. There was some big delays on stuff. There a lot of this just kind of got pushed quietly and was kind of weird because when I start streaming or people in my Discord start saying, "Hey, did you see that nothing that we were supposed to get is here?" Like that kind of stuff.
Nothing that we should
That's,
forget is not here.
yeah. What I'm like, what? That kind of stuff, and then it feels like we're just. It kind of sucks to feel like you're looking at a roadmap. I'm not saying they got to stick to everything. You know, if you have a roadmap that's a living roadmap, and especially things like delays, they happen. But it definitely does feel like I thought we were at a better pace, maybe 6 months, 7 months ago, at least for interacting with the community and in terms of hey, what's going on. You know, having little updates and letting us know what's going on. Dude, it seems like we go weeks without, or sorry, not weeks, almost months without some interaction of hey, this is what's happening, by the way. We've getting a lot of when I'm looking at other indie devs, specifically, you know, in the things like the Hell Let Looses or Escape from Tarkov. These things are it is very different when we do look at what we've gotten recently.
Yeah, I know there are people over at OWI who are really working really hard and pushing and they're debugging and all this stuff to try to get these patches out. I'm not trying to discredit these people. They are working hard. I applaud their efforts. It's just, I don't know if there are better ways. There might be better ways. Let me put it that way. There might be better ways to shake things up or I don't want to tell a company how to run their company. It just, as a consumer, my feeling, if I'm being honest, is that certain things could be done in order to enable the community to just do all these things themselves. That's how it feels as a consumer. It feels like, and I don't know why, it feels like for whatever reason they're deciding to put that burden upon themselves when it's like, hey, you don't have to do all that work, buddy. Just let us help you out. Let's help you out, and
Man,
we'll do a lot of it.
dropping the buddy.
I'm
Hey,
just saying.
pal. Hey. Sir, no, yeah. No, okay. With all of this, I do want to almost have an asterisk with this and say that we play a lot of this game.
Yeah, we do.
And a lot of the people that we probably play with probably play maybe not as much, but have logged hours comparable to ours. And so when you get to a point that this game might just be brand new for a lot of people because it just officially released a couple months ago, this game has been something that many people have been playing for, almost 4 years.
Yeah.
So when you have gameplay loops that have been relatively unchanged for that long, I think that's where a lot of
Might get a little
I'm
jaded.
guessing your frustration. Yeah, yeah. It makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's something that I honestly think that this layer change is going to help the modders like yourself out there to have better experiences and make it easier to play the game how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Because of the way that it's going to be able to load and plug and play. Because you no longer have to create a whole map layer for whatever airborne layer you want to do. You can just plug it and play at the start of the map. So
yeah.
I do hope
totally
this is
agree.
good.
I totally agree. Like it will be good, and I When they say, hey, hey, guess what, everyone? We're adding this new system, and it's gonna be great for modding. And then you look at the state of modding right now, and it's like, what do you mean we can't even play our own mods yet? It's
Dude,
just like,
I've been
oh
trying to play
no.
your mod for 2 weeks and I cannot play it.
Yeah.
I try to load in, it kicks me out. I hang. I gotta reinstall squad. So
It's
yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure it's a great mod.
yeah, we'll talk
I've
about it
yet
some
to
other
play it.
time. But it's oh god. I mean, I'm telling you, modding has opened my eyes. I got in the SDK, I learned how to do basic things. I've seen what the talented other individuals within that modding community can do, and it's jaw-dropping what's possible. And I think that's where I get a little bit even more jaded. Is just because I literally can see the possibilities. I can see the possibilities. I've done some of the possibilities, and I'm watching the official company add another hat, it's like it's hard. It's hard to accept. It's hard to rationalize. It really is hard to conceptualize and understand why this company would do something when you have this ability for the community to literally do almost anything they want with it. But
Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness,
well, tell us how you really feel, Karma.
in all fairness, right? Let's get real, okay? Let's get real.
Okay.
I spent 3,000 hours in this game. I've gotten my fucking money's worth out of this game. Honestly, OWI, he did a good job, right? I spent 3,000 hours on your product. I can't really complain. I'm asking just because I love this game and I would like to play it more, but I can totally understand, and I don't expect things to live on forever, right? Nothing lives forever, but it's good job. Good job getting us to this point. I've spent so much time in this game. You've gotten me so passionate in this game, and I just want the ability to extend the life with modding. That's all I want. But yeah, it's good
Well,
job.
I think when you put it like that, if you were to pay full price the $50 tag at how much you put in, that's like a cent or something, like
Yeah.
like a couple pennies
It's
for
nothing.
an hour of game. Yeah, like, so that's I do think but being able to hopefully encourage the platform so those who have played as much as we have can then turn the game that they want it to be into a reality. I think I really hope that's the next step, because that's what's going to keep squad going on, years to come. I think this stuff for the new players or for the players who have a couple hundred hours, this is going to get people back into the game. This is going to get people that we lost maybe on V1 after the never-ending new player weekend feel. I really hope we get some of the older players back in, because this is exciting. At least new
Most
content,
definitely.
new maps, that kind of stuff. I think will be healthy for the player base, and then hopefully with that content injection, with the people sticking around, we'll have some modding support that will then keep them sticking around even more and playing squad in different ways. So I definitely I hope we have fewer delays in the future, but I am cautiously optimistic on V2. I think you're cautious. I might be more optimistic and you're more cautious, but it's this is what we got, right?
It'll be good to see that player number jump up. It's just like I said, it's going to be a question of how long are these players going to keep playing the game. But hey, I think the game is done well so far. I just everyone knows I'm going to say already, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, everyone, this was a tiring, emotional podcast this week. Quite a lot of stuff to talk about. There's definitely a lot of interesting things for the future of Squad. Big question marks as far as where we'll go from here, what the delays and updates will look like, how OWI will handle releasing more content and the changes that they do decide to make, if it's going to just be more content or if they are going to pay more attention to gameplay. But I'm hopeful. I will say this. At the end of the day, I am hopeful. That's why I keep playing the game. That's why I keep following the community. That's why I keep reading these patch notes. And I want nothing but the best for all of us. But I think that's going to wrap us up here. Moy, any last words?
I think we said all the words. All the words have been spoken.
All the words. Oh boy. But yeah, guys, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Google. So yeah, thank you so much. And remember, if you want to leave us any feedback, any comments, what do you want to hear us talk about? Head over to the Discord, click on those links, let us know in the comments down below. It all helps us out very, very much. And we might have some cool, I don't know, maybe hint some webcam stuff for the future podcast. We'll see. So maybe some things.
Maybe we'll get something special for YouTube. To get a little, you guys, as much as you love the logo, we've been hearing that you don't love the logo that much. So well, we have some things planned. So hopefully we'll get that spinning up here soon.
Yeah. But thanks again, guys. And until next time, peace out.
Peace.